Good morning, Dan and Amy. So Putin and Trump wrapped up their summit meeting, which lasted a couple hours. Trump saying, at least see some reports. What?
You had me at hello?
Did not say that, I don't believe. But he said it's a good start. So they exchanged numbers. They may see each other again. And he was sort of optimistic, but with no expectations, much like when I go on a date, about this summit meeting.
We have discussions on everything from trade to military to missiles to nuclear to China. We'll be talking a little bit about China. Our mutual friend, President Xi. I think we have great opportunities together as two countries that, frankly, we have not been getting along very well for the last number of years. I've been here not too long, but it's getting close to 2 years. But I think we will end up having an extraordinary relationship. I hope so. I've been saying, and I'm sure you've heard over the years, and as I campaigned, that getting along with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing.
All right. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Bill Gertz, senior editor for the Washington Free Beacon and author of the book I War and Peace in the Information Age. Bill, thanks for being with us.
Hi, good morning, Dan and Amy.
Good morning. And so a lot was made in the run-up of this of, how Trump should be characterizing Putin, how Trump should be characterizing Russia. The meeting happens against the backdrop of those sort of virtue signaling indictments by Mueller on Friday. Is there much to read into what we know to be the case at this point?
Yeah, I think Trump really did a very good strategic move by criticizing NATO in the run-up to his meeting with Putin. That kind of gave him leverage in this closed-door meeting with the Russian leader, basically saying, look, he's a different kind of leader. He's trying to play, I think, the Russia card against China, which I think is a good thing. He's trying to make a deal with Putin. There's a lot of issues, as he said. There's the issue of Crimea. There's the issue of Russian violations of the INF Treaty. They've deployed a new cruise missile, which really sets off a whole strategic nuclear issue. And again, he was also talking about the Russian buildup of nuclear forces. So I think it's a good thing that he's meeting with the Russian leader. Hopefully, again, I think he's a good negotiator, and he's looking for some deal down the road with Putin.
Well, it's not a summit, so they're just getting to know each other. No agenda. Any deliverables coming out? They're going to come out and say during this joint press conference that we're now going to go do X, Y, and Z.
No, I think that they're looking. I've read reports that they're looking to do some kind of deal on Syria that would lead to the Iranian withdrawal from Syria. I don't know if that may be one of the deliverables that they're reportedly looking at, but I think this is just a get acquainted session. I think they're going to both be checking each other out. I noted that Putin arrived very late for the meeting. That was definitely a power move on the Russian leader's part to keep Trump waiting and, again, to send a signal that he's in charge when that's usually something that Trump does.
In terms of kind of framing the relationship, how important is it that Trump establish some boundaries, some you shall not cross boundaries, you shall not extend your revanchism to the Baltics. We will respond if you continue your forays into trying to reconstitute Mother Russia.
Yeah, see, I don't see Trump doing that. Trump is, as he's announced, his policies are America first, so he's looking everything in the context of what Russia can do to support American interests, rather than the U.S., again, going to bat for Europe, defending Europe, trying to deal with issues like Russian expansionism. I don't think that's kind of high on his agenda. It's obviously something that the U.S. has a responsibility as the world's main superpower. But again, from Trump's standpoint, again, he's looking at it from a strategic position of America first. How can better relations with Moscow benefit America down the road? And like I said, I think the big deliverable, if he could develop a better relationship, we need to wean Russia.
We need to what? Sorry,
wean Russia off what? I'm sorry.
we need to wean Russia away from China. Right now, Russia and China are developing an anti-U.S. alliance. So I think that basically Trump is trying to get Russia away from China and develop some type of accommodation with the U.S. that can be used eventually down the road. Because if you look at the threats from Russia and China, the Chinese economy is like 7 times bigger than the Russian economy. Plus, Russia is really struggling with the sanctions that have been imposed on it by the U.S. and Europe over Crimea and other issues.
And what about, do you think President Trump or even the media during this joint press conference will bring up the poisoning of those British residents?
Well, certainly that's an issue of Russian behavior. The fact that the Russians have, and I outline this in my book, I War, they've been engaged in killing journalists, killing opposition figures. Let's face it, this is not a good regime in Moscow, and the president needs to make clear that any accommodation between the U.S. and Russia will be for U.S. interests in the short term, and that over the long term, the U.S. could wage information warfare against Russia, like the Russians did during the 2016 election, and that would certainly get the attention of the Russian leader, I think.
So on this issue of hacking, on the issue of Syria, on the issue of revanchism, if Trump is going to kind of emphasize the positive, as it were, and offer carrots, what carrot does he have other than lifting sanctions?
Well, I think definitely that is what the Russians want. They're looking for some type of economic relief from the United States, and I think Trump could play that card very well. He could say, "Look, if you guys change the behavior, stop poisoning dissidents and opposition figures, get out of Ukraine, and stop destabilizing the Ukraine, then there could be a possibility of lifting sanctions." But on the issue of Russian election meddling, does anybody think that if Hillary Clinton had won the election that there would be this media and Democratic push to press Moscow over its election meddling? They've been doing that for decades, and in previous elections they've done even far worse things to interfere with the United States, and none of the media or the Democrats cared about it at that. But when Hillary Clinton lost the election, somehow they think that Moscow helped Trump get elected. I think really what the Russians did was prevent Hillary from getting elected, and it's a subtle difference, but it's a significant one.
You mean attempt to prevent her
from
getting, yeah, right. There was some other news over the weekend that's important. It was overshadowed, of course, by this summit meeting in Helsinki, but Trump telling top diplomats to seek direct talks with the Taliban to try and bring the 17-year war in Afghanistan to an end and 15,000 American troops deployed there home, consistent with what you were saying before about American interests. How do you receive that information and that approach to Afghanistan?
Yeah, I don't see a negotiated settlement in Afghanistan. Right now, they're looking for a way out, and the problem is nobody wants to say that we've spent $1 trillion there and lost so many lives, and then ended up having to cut and run, and that's really the problem. We're not into nation buildings, and I think that's one of the key things that Trump has been advocating. He doesn't want America to be a nation builder, and we just don't have a Department of Nation Building. We have a military, we have a State Department, and we have a Defense Department, but trying to rebuild a country like Afghanistan, we've definitely bitten off more than we can chew with that problem. So he's looking for an exit strategy, I think.
Well, right. But what are the geopolitical implications? Because the domestic political implications are net positive. I mean, there's no appetite for among the American public to be in Afghanistan in perpetuity, which it seems like we already have been.
Yeah, it's not a problem that can be solved with military forces there. I think we can use intelligence forces, or at the very least, special operations forces in small numbers, and basically pull out our regular troops there. Trying to train up the Afghans hasn't worked. We're still seeing insider attacks there, but again, this is a big problem. We don't want terrorists to end up being a base there. Trying to deal with the Taliban, which has been doing suicide attacks, killing hundreds of Afghans, I don't think that's going to work either.
All right. He is Bill Gertz, senior editor for the Washington Free Beacon. His book, I War, War and Peace in the Information Age. Bill, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.